I'm beaten, I'm battered, I'm bruised. These last 2 weekends have been a nightmare of round after round of Unbroken, 10 plus flawless ticket show offs pounding me and my fire team into oblivion again and again and again, Hardlights bouncing around every corner, and teabaggers showing off how little they have to value from their real lives. I may be depressed and miserable now, but at least I got the shotgun. Now, you might be thinking, the shotgun isn't actually something to be proud of, it's not flawless, to which I counter, wow, that's incredibly toxic, Mr. Strawman, but more to the point, half the number of people who earned the Scholar last weekend, the 3-win reward, earned Astral Horizon, the 3-win reward this weekend. More people earned Tomorrow's Answer, last weekend's 5-win reward, than the Astral Horizon this weekend. Hell, the number of people who earned last weekend's 7-win reward, the Exile's Curse, is only 1 percentage point lower than the number of people who earned the Astral Horizon. The number of people who could win 7 games before 4 losses last weekend is comparable to the number of people who, this weekend, could only win 3 games before 4 losses. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, Trials isn't in a healthy state. There are a few reasons why we could see such a discrepancy. For example, not only has Destiny been a beaver nightmare with connection issues since the season launched, but this weekend Trials opened with a reward bug that hurt players who earned rewards last weekend. Now, that was fixed, but it's impossible to know how many players simply gave up after that bug denied them rewards. A fact that shouldn't be reassuring insofar as the point today, but it is something. However, Astral Horizon, the shotgun, was the 3-win reward. This, ultimately, was terrible for the game mode. I don't think I'm alone when I say that the shotgun is the most valuable piece of gear from the Trials loot pool. Besides celerity and flawless glows, I'll go so far as to say it's the only relevant gear Trials has to offer for this looter shooter. A kinetic aggressive frame shotgun that can roll both quick draw and opening shot. The fact that it could roll either makes it a worthwhile addition to any PvP collection. The fact that it could roll both at once makes it possibly the best shotgun in the game. At least until they nerf aggressive frames because of usage rate. Now, my roll isn't the god roll. It's like a 4.5 out of 5. Rifled barrel, assault mag, and a range masterwork is the best mix of range and RPM. And opening shot I believe is the most important perk to roll, but I have threat detector, which is like half a quick draw, but also more, so I don't know, you tell me. I am satisfied with it though, because I'm not trying to pound my brain against Trials of Osiris to maximize my chances of being 100% lucky, because I don't actually hate myself. That was a joke earlier, despite my face. However, as top-tier PvP content creators pointed the community at large towards the obvious exploitable loophole of Trials, plenty of people did do everything they could to maximize their chances at the god roll Astral Horizon. They wanted the best, at any cost. At any cost. Trials of Osiris doesn't have skill-based matchmaking. It instead has connection-based card matchmaking, which is to say, as long as you and they have the same number of wins on a ticket and live close by, there's nothing preventing you, somebody who only recently got recluse from the comp playlist, from getting paired against tryhards with 40 plus flawless clears second weekend. Like, first of all, sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, fuck you if you think middle school basketball teams are fairly squared against the NBA in your match-made PvP activity that needs a high player population to work. But more on the point, this matchmaking style only works so long as high-skilled players remain deep in their win counts when queuing up. Like, the idea is that skilled players usually play deep in the win counts, right? Letting unskilled players pair against one another early in the ticket, but eventually having to face the skilled foes after a certain threshold, right? Well, not only does this fail whenever a skilled player resets their ticket after a single loss, you know, the thing we want them to do often because we want everyone to value flawless, meaning most players have few to no wins on their ticket at any given moment. But if players have any incentive besides a single loss to reset their ticket and decide to only hang out in the technically low skill bracket, what happens? Well, about the same number of players who managed 7 wins last weekend were able to compete and earn 3 this weekend. the literal tryhards gate-kept Trials of Osiris from the player base at large, because they wanted to farm the shotgun. To be fair, I don't necessarily blame people for farming lobbies to get more shotguns. Again, it's really the only good thing from the Trials loot pool, in my opinion I guess, and if your goal is to maximize rewards, it's mechanically better to farm lobbies than to go flawless. That's a fact is problematic, that the 3-win reward is better than the flawless reward. But also, I do blame the swarm of PvP players that hate even a modicum of skill-based matchmaking because connections and trying hard no fun boohoo. Like, look at these numbers again. This happened, whether overwhelmingly or in major part, because skilled players farmed lobbies to earn that single reward. This happened because, last weekend, Trials of Osiris devolved into one question. Will you farm or be farmed? How dare you ask for an environment where this is acceptable? You, the hypothetical Mr. Strawman I'm yelling at. That players could decide, even for the heckin' fun of griefing, to specifically do this. Not because of workarounds like smurfing, but rather that it's explicitly baked into the system, is shit. This is the reason PvP game modes die. Like, I'm aggressive right now because I want to be clear. This is the problem of a PvP environment without novice player protection. Should that protection be skill-based matchmaking? Should it be lobbies with hundreds of players so that skilled players are less oppressive given the law of big numbers? It doesn't really matter what, but there needs to be something. And rewards aren't enough. There were flawless rewards for Trials of the Nine, better flawless rewards than the Trials of Osiris, sans what I can get from Nightfalls, the ornaments, or cosmetic armor ornaments, right? But that didn't matter then, did it? It eventually succumbed to the same slow death all competitive PvP games die when they emphasize the permission to pub stomp over the freedom to play the game. Trials of Osiris sucks in part because skilled PvP players hate skill-based matchmaking. This is what you wanted, Mr. Strawman, with your straw hat and unfortunate features I can easily criticize to make a joke. Bungie is also part of the problem, in no small part to their fear over skilled player rewards, as well as their absolute refusal to make any legitimate cosmetic reward for anything anymore because fucking Eververse. See video in the description for general thoughts on that. But if you're someone that has personally and currently argues for a reality where the NBA is allowed to show up to any middle school and decimate any kid that even thinks about shooting some hoops for an afternoon, I want you to know I personally hate you. Like, it's really easy for me to it's really easy to hate the idea of someone and less toxic to the self than hating actual individuals. So yeah, I recommend you give it a try sometime. Build your own straw man, give it a neat hat, and then stab it to death. To be clear, to back up for a second, I don't want flawless. But there's, in fact, an irony in how pathetic flawless rewards are. A mirror to the pathetic rewards from aspirational PvE content and challenges. That I can solo flawless Pit of Heresy on each character means about as much as your ability to go to the lighthouse. Like, I sympathize with the fact that the rewards of Trials of Osiris are so bad, not only for the lowest skill bracket, but also the highest. If Flawless this weekend gave every player a curated Astral Horizon, one with the God roll, as well as Celerity, either as an intrinsic 5th perk, perhaps built into the barrel or magazine, or even as alternative perks, ritual weapon style, in both the 3rd and 4th column. Would that be so bad? I'd argue no. This isn't Luna's Howl and Not Forgotten. Celerity isn't a damage and range boosting perk that will prevent players from rising in glory because they can't outplay bad players using the strictly superior option. But more importantly, everyone who can't go flawless can still earn Astral Horizon and can still hunt the God roll, and could even hunt for one with Celerity on it. There's nothing about our hypothetical curated adept Astral Horizon with an intrinsic Celerity bonus that wouldn't, in theory, be attainable by the average player. In fact, I would go even further and argue that perks like Celerity are the solution to aspirational rewards throughout all of Destiny. If Bungie could identify quality of life perks like Celerity and attribute them to different game modes and different challenges, they could make adept weapons for all content. A god roll favored Midnight Coup with field prep intrinsically for clearing Prestige Leviathan and all her challenges. A god roll notorious spare rations with overflow intrinsically for acquiring Reckoner. A god roll seasoned Dire Promise with snapshot intrinsically for winning so many games of survival in a season. Mastery weapons for aspirational rewards which, in their totality, offer something large and unique for skilled players to chase, but neither overtly more powerful nor in pieces inaccessible to mid-range players, where every perk is available to everyone, but the combination itself unique to the challenge, offering chase and glory. Adept weapons are literally the answer to aspirational content rewards. But also, matchmaking parameters that protect weaker players from skilled monsters is a mandatory reality of any PvP game mode that needs a player population to succeed. Like, I understand you want a PvP equivalent to the raid, an activity that also has a low player success rate, that has pros and Sherpas and success stories and everything between, but a flawless ticket should never, ever be comparable to a raid clear. You don't need to punish another fireteam to clear Garden of Salvation. You don't need to send some scrubs back to the gauntlet to beat Callus yourself. Not only is PvE content a solved equation, something you can practice at and will guaranteed eventually overcome, but your success is not dependent on someone else's failure. Everyone can one day win at PvE. For a fireteam of 3 to succeed at going to the lighthouse, 21 players need to fail. Every successful flawless ticket is also 7 failures. I'm not saying PvP shouldn't be in Destiny. PvP is part of the game. I want to play PvP. I want to play eliminations. I want to listen to Saint XIV whisper sweet nothings into my ear. But for the conversation to move forward on activities such as Trials, for activities such as Iron Banner, y'all are gonna have to be honest about the reality that PvE and PvP are fundamentally different beasts that need to be handled differently. And Trials of Osiris, like Iron Banner, like Quick Play, like every node that's accessible from the Crucible menu, needs to have some accessibility to novice players, assuming you want a player population to begin with. There needs to be some space for everyone to queue up, fill lobbies, and leave satisfied. I can confidently say that last weekend was an absolute disaster in that regard. Do I want skill-based matchmaking in Trials? Well, yes, but I accept that things are complicated and not that easy. I also don't want queue times to take forever. And broadly, the idea that I will be paired against players with some dramatic difference in skill to me is, in and of itself, fine. Not players with 47 flawless clears when I'm struggling to get my friends 3 wins, though. My favorite suggestion that I've read is that every weekend you get to do each passage once, except the final passage, and then matchmaking would only pair you against players running the same passage. Splitting the lobbies 5 ways, though, sounds like a lot, so something else I'd love to see is that you only get a flawless passage of Mercy once a week. And so long as you're in a fire team with only players running Passage of Mercy, you'll only be paired against fire teams running Passage of Mercy. Give Passage of Confidence actual rewards, perhaps the Trials armor as ornaments, you fucking cowards. But then each week players are divided into 2 camps. Those who haven't gone flawless yet, and those who have. Players graduate from the first group into the second slowly. 7 wins before 2 losses is still a daunting task, but once they graduate, they have incentive to actually keep playing and fill the population now that they have a discovery pool and can actually spend tokens. Players know that after a while, the skilled players will be unable to gatekeep them out of Trials, incentivizing players to keep trying day after day fishing for rewards. And even if they can never make it to the lighthouse, the lobbies will still be more inviting to them day after day, encouraging them to queue up and help those who can. And players will be encouraged to actually play with their friends and get better with their friends and one day pass the finish line with their friends, instead of following Cactus HD's advice and abandoning your friends in yet another Destiny game mode to get carried through an environment you technically don't deserve to triumph in. Will this mean an amount of players might reach the lighthouse that otherwise don't deserve it? Well, I'd still argue that that's still the case, that for every flawless ticket there's 7 failures, but more importantly, right now, the amount of the community that could get anything out of Trials, since the absolute bare minimum for not wasting your weekend is 3 wins, halved going from the first weekend to the second. Wouldn't you rather have an activity where more players earn rewards than perhaps is the platonic ideal, rather than an activity that dies the slow death of try-hard pub stomp? I mean, it's not like the flawless rewards currently matter right now. Whatever changes, if anything changes, until that moment comes, until Trials becomes an environment where I can actually play with my friends and not waste their time 2 weekends in a row, I'm basically done. I might go in one more time next weekend. I hear going into Trials as soon as it opens is the best way to avoid try-hard ruiners and actually have fun, but I am no longer bringing my close friends into this activity. Most of them have already quit Trials, myself basically included now that I got the shotgun. And it will be my advice to everyone I talk to not play Trials. It's a degenerate environment that chews through unsuspecting casuals who just thought this was another avenue to play Destiny with their friends. And even if you live above the bottom skill bracket, the toxic chewing will catch up to you eventually. Soon, enough players will quit Trials where you too will be the fool that gets farmed. Do not get farmed. Do not waste your time. Do not play Trials. Like, fuck, the most fun most players can have with Trials of Osiris is watching content creators trivialize it. Is this what you wanted?